Gets away from Kante, plays down the line for Suarez. 98 team of the year, Suarez.
He's a big chance.
Ramos.
Suarez, what's he going to do? Tries to feed it back. Is that going to come to Ronaldo? Just trying to get a foot on that, maybe. Pull it now. The man that Bullock loves. Half turn there from Torres. Vieira back to Suarez on the finesse, and there we have it. The Bullock is in London. He turns around. He celebrates. The Bullock. He had a plan, and he's performed it.
You're listening to the FUT Champions Podcast with Richard and Brandon. What is going on? Welcome back to a brand new FUT Champions Podcast, week number 10. We're on. We're getting to the double figures in the podcast series, and a big thank you for last week. And I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. Obviously, we teamed up with FUT Weekly, and it was received really well. DH Tex, it's good to have him on, and of course Roma Poacher as well, or Coacher, some said, just for that event. But of course, I'm not on my own. That main man, Richard Buckley's back with me last week. I don't know if you heard the podcast, Richard, but I missed you a bit last week. I missed you a bit.
I mean, I missed being on it as well. It was a very interesting podcast. I did listen to it. I thought DH Tech spoke really, really well for his age, being only 16 years old. I'll get my digs in straight away.
Yeah, did you know he was 16
years old?
Yep.
He is 16, and you heard the man who is joining us here today, Mr. ChuBoi. Welcome to the show.
Welcome. I mean, what am I saying? Welcome. Yeah, thanks for
welcome.
having me. Sorry, I'm used to like hosting, I guess, my old stuff. So it's great to be here.
The thing is, Chu, the only person that's tried to nick our show and introduce it himself is Kurt before.
Expected.
And you're up there now. But a big thank you, Chief, for coming. Obviously, if you didn't see Chu, he does a lot of the analysis stuff. He's done a lot of the live events. More last year, he was doing events before we had our first proper one. So big thank you for coming on, ChuBoi. And of course, we have got Colin with us. Obviously, AS Roma, FIFA Esports Manager. Colin, welcome back for another week.
Excited to be back. We're back to crunch time, back to qualifying, and it's a tense atmosphere, but it's exciting to be back in the running for the next major.
Which is a good point to talk about. Obviously, Colin, if you didn't know, for the viewers, obviously you can probably guess by the accent, he is from America. He's over in the UK now for a good period of time, but so he has obviously got some of his players over. I'm sure you can go more into depth, Colin. What's the plan for your boys for qualifying month? Because obviously we've seen more of the HQs involved now, and I'm sure you guys have got kind of a similar thing going on.
Yeah, so for every single weekend during the month of February, which is a qualifying month for the next major, every single one of our guys is going to be here in London, living at a flat about a 10-minute walk away from our headquarters. And in our headquarters, we have, all of the support staff of FNATIC. We have a gaming room which has 7 different setups that you can play either PC or console games, whether it's PlayStation or Xbox. And so Zima, Insa, and Poacher will all be coming down every single weekend, and some of them are even staying throughout the weeks as well to kind of make some content and work with their teammates. But it's been a really good atmosphere. The guys helping each other out, supporting each other, as you've kind of seen like some other teams like Hashtag and FUTWiz have done similar setups. But obviously, our setup's done pretty well for us so far, with our guys seeming to only get better while they're in the gaming room.
And one thing that I want to bring Chu in on this. Obviously, you used to work at EA Sports, and you've had the history there. Whenever you were at EA Sports, seeing the growth that FIFA's had over the last year and a half in FIFA Esports, from the other side of the camera, from the business side of it, it's quite a dramatic growth that FIFA's had, and with more esports organisations, it seems like it's taken very seriously right now. Do you think it's going to continue to grow? And where do you really think if there is a glass roof, where do you think the roof is?
Well, so I was on FIFA. I used to work at EA from FIFA 12, right after the Euro 2012 DLC, actually. I don't know if you guys remember that. That was my first week at work. And if you guys remember, that DLC did not work at all. So that was a great first week. So I was there from then till the launch of FIFA 16. So I would say during that time, there was a bit of esports here and there. There was, was a Virgin Gaming. There was, Gfinity started coming up, things like that. But it was never, I guess it was never to this level. So this is the reason why I kind of like seeing things now that I'm outside of EA, seeing things from this point of view, because it's like the one part of FIFA that I just have never experienced. Because when you come out of EA, you've kind of like, you've seen most of it. You've seen most of what FIFA's all about. You've seen how the sausage is made, I guess. And coming out of Barcelona, I think Barcelona was that's a significant point. I mean, it felt so different. I think FIFA 17 was very important because with FUT Champions, it gave the pros the scene to build off of. And then I just think the difference in the personality of the pros, their presentation, just the way they carry themselves a year on from last year. I thought that Barcelona was just it just kind of shows where things are going. Everybody's way more professional, more teams are getting into it. People coming through with entourages, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Everybody looks like they're all branded up. They got their team jerseys, team everything, and kids running up to take pictures with them. It just kind of made me realize that it's gonna go far. It's gonna go far. Is there a glass ceiling? I mean, I think as long as the sport keeps growing, I don't think there should be. To be honest with you, I think that's the great thing about FIFA.
I think right now it's in very good hands. Obviously, Brent Conin, the commissioner, I think he's definitely got a plan, and I think they're going that way to execute it really, because the difference, just personally from me in events, like me and Brandon had a very, very small part to play in Berlin, but the difference in events from Berlin to Barcelona was quite astronomical, really. Do you think that going forward, we are going to see more esports orgs? We saw FaZe TAS and FaZe Clan get involved, Colin and to Chu, but the question is, like, when is it going to happen? Because I feel like the FaZe thing really took me by surprise. Like, that wasn't something I was expecting. I didn't know that they actually had eyes on it. Do you think it's going to be an Optic Gaming next? Do you think it's going to be an Envy? And more importantly, who do you think, looking at the talent pool, would fit a move like that?
Optic Bullock. Facts.
He's been after it for months.
No, I like the he's been directing his energy towards that path. So fingers crossed for him. Like you said, it's definitely in good hands. I mean, I definitely see more people getting into it. The good thing about FIFA right now is that it's still in its infancy. So I guess if you're an organization you want to get in, I mean, now's the time to get in so you can build something before it really takes off, right? Who knows what happens in FIFA 19? I'm gonna guess that's the next FIFA.
It's going back to 0. It's going to be FIFA 1 again.
I was gonna say, you never know. So I do see an Optic coming in. I see a couple. I would say who else? Who else is not in?
You got like Splice, Complexity.
I mean, CLG, Cloud9. I mean, there's G2, SK's in it now, but I mean, there's a lot of big organizations. The nice thing about FIFA, though, is it's such a low-risk endeavor. Like FIFA players, unless you're going to do the phase and come in and sign, like, the best player or one of the best players in the world and spend a lot of money on him, I think that it's pretty easy to just come in and sign 1, 2, 3 players and have it be relatively low risk. And then, if that pays off like a year or two down the line, then, you've made your money back. But I think it's a pretty low barrier of entry. And that's why you're seeing like a lot of these players, a lot of the best players are playing for like smaller clubs and smaller organizations at the moment. But I mean, for us, even it's been a pretty solid investment so far, and we're pretty happy about it. And we're only looking at like investing more in the space. So,
and something to lead into Chu. Obviously, we're seeing, you could say, as a football game that FIFA is, you're seeing a lot of football clubs going, but also it's good to see that we're getting still the gaming organisations. Do you think that's really important as we go forward to still have football clubs and gaming organisations, or do you think it should just be one way or the other?
I think it's better that it's both because you need both worlds to grow the scene. Yeah. I think because it's it's one of the only esports, one of the only big esports, I guess you could say, that's based on something that happens in the real world. So we need the real world to drive it. We need the real world to get interest, because I mean that's where we're gonna have to grow. Aside from the gaming side, we're gonna have to grow on the real world side, where people do see T-Mox as a Wolfsburg player, along with the Wolfsburg, real life football players. And then that way we gain interest from there. So I think it's a good balance. I do want to see more of both actually get in, and then maybe you see like, I don't know, Neymar come in with something. I want to see like players also. Well, if they do it, yeah, exactly. We had the Hold It thing, I don't know why they didn't call it Hold It Gang, but whatever. They could have missed opportunity. But Team Hold It came in, I mean, as long as they do it the right way, as long as they do it with the right mindset in mind, I don't see that as a problem at all, and I think it only helps.
You mentioned Hold It then, it's just brought me back to a point that I wanted to speak about earlier. You did the more analytical side of the broadcast in Barcelona, Chu. You pretty much saw, in Barcelona we saw probably, I'd say 14, 15 players overall used throughout the entire event. Going forward in the game, we're going to have a few more prime icons released. The big ones for me, who I think are going to mix it up a little bit, Desailly, Blanc, obviously Hullit's just going to get upgraded. I think there will be a few changes here and there. Who were your standout in-game player in Barcelona, and if you were a pro, would there be any changes that you would be making to that team, like the average starting 11 if you were a pro?
I mean, I would say that's like the one thing that gameplay-wise I didn't like about Barcelona, was that I always like restrictions.
Yep.
I like the restrictions that were put in FIWC, where it's like, I think it was three legends,
395 plus.
Exactly. So that was really cool because I got to see, like, it makes the pros think differently, and it makes you as a person watching at home think like, all right, well, if you don't pick the meta players, who are the pros going to pick that, or players who maybe even I can afford, that they see like some benefits too. Like Team Dembele was like my favorite player last year, and it was great to see like some of the pros use him a lot in FIWC. And the thing with the no restrictions in FUT Champions Cup is that, yeah, you generally see the same, I would say, 12, 13 players overall. In terms of the best player, I guess, I mean, I think the most interesting thing was people not using Prime Vieira and going for the 88. I thought that was very interesting, actually, because the 88 has better pace, and that's what you need to close people down when it's, a Champions Cup. I guess the best player, I mean, it's got to be R9, and it was just the R9 and CR7 Team of the Year combo. I thought that was just, I mean, you kind of expected that in the first place, but it was just crazy to see how good those players are. And then I'm sure as soon as the Prime R9 comes out, that's going to be the striker in Champions Cup. Hopefully it comes out before Champions Cup too. In terms of other player, I mean, I don't think Hullet was as dominant as he was last year. I mean, last year Hullet was just the midfielder. Yeah, he was everywhere. You didn't see a lot of Pogba like you saw last year as well. A lot of people had like the informed Pogbas. I want to say, I think for me, it was good to see. I mean, I support United, so it was good to see Prime Rio. Everybody just accepting that Prime Rio was probably the best icon defender right now. I mean, we'll see when Prime Maldini comes out, but even still, I would still say that Prime Rio would be like the best bet.
I think Desailly or Laurent Blanc could give Rio a run for his money. Obviously, you got that Team of the Year, Sergio Ramos, as well, with 96 short passing, if you didn't know. Can play in midfield as well, Brandon.
Yeah, a point we can link into this as well with Colin is, as we spoke to a number of pros, and Chu said it there as well, a lot of the guys, for example, I'll give you a good example of this. Kurt came in, didn't really change his team like loads. He could have used, higher icons. Some of the prime ones, obviously, he chose to use, the 88. Vieira, I think he used. For you, Colin, if you were, obviously you have a poacher's shoulder, for the next event in April, if any of your players do make it there, fingers crossed they do, would you say to them, change your team because you've got, the attractions of these higher rated players, or would you say, right, you've qualified with that team, keep it the same, or how do you feel about that?
I mean, it's funny. I think it actually, and something I saw at the event as well, is like it's almost the feel of the day. So when we went in, I think Poacher used his same team that he had been using. So normal Ronaldo, one less rating, informed Neymar. I think like first informed Neymar instead of second informed Neymar. And he lost his first game. And so then he was like, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to change it. We're just going to put in like the best players now. So I feel like if you go in and you feel good with your team and you're playing well, then you're just going to stick with it. Otherwise, like I think it really comes to just how players feel in the day. But I think like some players just were like, this is what I'm comfortable with, because the way the players make runs, that, you know, those just 1 or 2 or 3 points of pace might make them be in a slightly different position than they might not be. And you're just not used to the players because, you know, from what I've heard from my players, you know, it doesn't take 5 games to get used to a player, even if it is just a different version. You know, it takes, you know, 5, 6, 7, like, you know, 50, 60, 70 games to actually get used to them and to understand how the player works. So I would say it's a risk to use players that you're not used to at these events, but, you know, to each their own, I guess.
One thing, just moving away from Barcelona and the more competitive side of FIFA, while we've got Chu here, I wanted to just ask him a question. I recently saw a MatchD Gamer video on like packs and EA being more open with like pack weight, etc. As a streamer, I was watching you a couple of days ago when you opened 7 want to watch packs on
God,
7 summer, 7 winter. You can maybe give a bit of insight as well from like because you did work at EA, whatever, like if you can, like, is it a gambling thing? Because for me, if I'm putting money onto the game, it's like going to the casino. Like, I might win, but there's like an 85% chance that I'm gonna lose and come away with nothing. Is that how you see it, or as a streamer, is it like content and you're providing the content?
I mean, even before I stream, I mean, I'm just not a person. I don't like to, like, I don't gamble. I don't like to spend money unnecessarily in anything. So opening packs is a struggle for me because I can afford them, but because to me, it is like going to a casino where it's like, I know it's my responsibility. Like, I know the chances of me getting something good are not high. Like, I've been through FIFA enough to know that. Every time I open a pack. So at the end of the day, I mean, yeah, I get I opened 4 Winter Want-to Watches and got Tagliafico 4 times straight. I'm pissed off, but I'm more mad at myself because I knew what it was. Like, I knew there was a chance that would happen. I knew that, yeah, my packs are probably going to be bad. That's all CCG, card collecting games. It's the chance of you getting something good is always going to be lower than what you would want, because that's why you keep playing the game. I do feel bad for, younger kids, maybe like they're 15 and younger, that don't understand that, but... And my whole thing is just like, hey, if nobody's pointing a gun to my head to spend money, is how I always see these things. I that's why I don't go to the casino. Like, my friends go to the casino a lot. I join them. I just don't spend any money because I know that, hey, the chances of me winning probably not very high,
And something to go on to that, going back to the competitive side of it, a lot of people this year, I think it was... towards the beginning of the game, said that FIFA was almost like, if you put the money into the game, you could get the better team and then you could get better weekend league rewards, etc, etc. For you, Colin, your players, what are you saying to them? Are you saying put the money into the game because we'll have that slight advantage at the beginning of the game? Like, I know DH Tex, we had him on last week, unfortunately I wasn't able to be on the podcast, but he said, I've not got a meta team, I've not got a fantastic team. Do you think that skill outweighs having a good team sometimes, or does having the R9 Ronaldo get you that extra win that may secure qualification?
I think you have to be a very, very, very good player to play with a, I guess you could say non-meta team and beat someone with a meta team that's at a similar level to you, because, I mean, the gap in FIFA right now is just so small, and I think they're just those couple of guys that have that special thing, when you talk about the Gorillas and the Ditos and I guess the Techs at the moment at least, those types of guys that they can use whatever teams they want almost, and as long as they're comfortable with them, they can do it. But I think the general everyday run-of-the-mill player, they have to play with those kind of meta players. You're not going to see a pro player that's not using Ronaldo. It's just not going to happen. So at the beginning of the game, we gave them a necessary amount of, funding to make sure that their accounts were at an appropriate level so that they could, compete with everyone from day one. But after that, it's just kind of like sparse investment. So maybe around Team of the Year or around Team of the Season, when the risk to reward ratio is a little bit higher, where if you hit the jackpot, it could be worth a lot.
Jackpot, yeah.
Exactly. So whereas if we're opening 7.5k packs when there's no special items out, or just a team of the week, it's not really worth investing the money at that point. So you just kind of have to be smart about your investment, because it's like the stock market. You just have to kind of play it appropriately, and if you can do it well enough, then every once in a while you'll get something good. And let me open their packs, of course, seeing that packed messy.
Ridiculous.
It's pretty stupid, to be honest. I've done the SBCs recently, just like the transfer ones, and on the last 2 I've gotten an 88 rated player in both of them, which obviously isn't worth a crazy amount, but still, just for an everyday 3-pack opening, it's pretty decent.
It's not too bad at all. And you said about investing there into obviously some of your players. How important is it for, you could say, a long-term investment? Because obviously the way they put the money into the game at the beginning, a number of players, for you as obviously the coach and the manager of that team, if you give the player a certain amount of funding, you say go and enjoy it how you want, go and have some packs, or you say come on, let's be realistic, let's grind out draft for a few weeks, because you're getting used to using some of the best players at that moment in time, and then you're obviously getting rewards as well.
Yeah, it kind of depends, because I think the value of certain players at the beginning of the game is much higher. So opening packs is it makes a little bit more sense, because if you pack a Ronaldo on day 1, it's probably going to be worth more on day 1 than it will be 3 or 4 months from then. So it's not as risky as maybe 3 or 4 months in opening 7.5k packs. But it depends on the player sometimes, because we don't really put strict restrictions. It's kind of here's your funding, use it as you will. And Poacher, for example, I think he took $600 or $700 of it and just grinded draft. And got used to those best players, and just kept playing draft over and over again, and then would open the draft packs. And for a pro player, that's they're winning the draft 99 out of 100 times, and are gonna get those crazy packs, or decent packs at least, every single time. So for them, it's a much better investment. And at the beginning of the game, gameplay is the most important thing. So I think it kind of blends the most important 2 things at the beginning of the game. So draft is definitely, I think, the best investment. Getting the team up there as quickly as possible, I think, is important too, because if you're spending that, maybe you spend $200 or $300 at the beginning, and then kind of slowly build your team up after that. Because going into that first weekend league, you almost immediately need to be top 100 if you're a pro, to make sure that your account is at the appropriate level. Because I think it was month 1 or 2, Poacher packed Neymar, red Neymar, and to have that so early into the game and not have to spend the coins on it just opens up investment to the rest of your team at a very early stage.
And you did speak about gameplay there. If you have been living under a rock, you will have noticed that there has been a patch recently in the game. I'm going to come to you first, Chu. Initial reaction to the patch. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? What are your thoughts on it? And then we'll go to Colin to get a bit more insight from what the pros are thinking, the Roma boys who did play last weekend league. So, Chu, the patch, take it away.
I mean, I've been on a hiatus from FUT Champions, but I haven't played season stuff like that. I know that the pros do not like it. Funny enough, it plays more to my strengths, because I think it feels slightly slower. I want to say, I don't know why, but it feels slightly slower. But again, that benefits me, because I can keep track. My weakness is defending, so I can keep track of the attackers better. So it benefits me, but I know that the pros are not enjoying it. What I'm noticing is that a lot of people seem to be using wider formations. I think 4-2-3-1 wide will make a bit of a comeback. But at the same time, I see a lot of people saying that 4-4-2 is not as effective. So it'll be interesting to see what that says to the meta, because I feel like even I've been trying to attack on the wings. What's been working for me is attacking on the wings. And I know that Jozik, one of the pros from Navi, he says that he used to do 4-1-2, 1-2 narrow. He says that the past weekend league, he's it just does not work anymore. So I think you're going to see a lot of wider formations.
It's quite interesting you spoke about the wings there, because one thing that I took away from Barcelona was the amount that people cross. For me, that's something that just didn't really, I didn't add it to my game, but after Barcelona, the back post cross seems so effective.
Oh
and
my god,
that's definitely something I'm going to be going with forward.
It's a joke,
yeah. I started doing it actually, because Gorilla was saying how how I think who was it? Tim Locke was doing that on him back post with Messi, and I was playing draft and I crossed to the back post with Messi, and yeah, easy goal. So I've been doing a lot more short crosses and also early back post crosses.
Yeah, like whipping it around the last man.
The fullbacks have no idea. It felt like the fullbacks almost have no idea what to do in that situation. Like the AI just like can't cope with it. But yeah, no, the patch is definitely an interesting one, you know, because I have 3 players that all have 3 very different gameplay styles, you know. So I think all of them reacted to it differently. Obviously, with slower gameplay, I'll let you guys assume what Poacher thought of it. You know, it's definitely not suited to skills and to, you know, the quicker style of gameplay from what I've seen and from what I saw from his weekend league results. But then Zima, who I think almost benefited from it in a way. He picked up a 39 last weekend and was scoring goals for fun, and it was just because he was being clinical and just finishing pretty much every chance he had. So I've watched it, and just watching the game as well, like obviously I know it's different, but it does seem slower, and that's the feedback I've gotten from pros as well, is that it's slower. So yeah, I think it's going to change the meta a bit as well. I agree. I think the way that the game is slowed down, I think it's definitely going to make it so that the things that the pros did that you know, made them qualify in November, that qualified them into Barcelona, it's probably not going to be as effective this month.
Well, a good point we all need to get our teeth into now. We'll come to ChuBoi as well. If you didn't know, Chu does a Top 100 TV as well over on his Twitch channel every week. I believe it. Do you do it on a Tuesday? Is it, Chu?
Mondays or Tuesdays. Usually Mondays. Yeah, it
so,
varies depending on the schedules of these divas like Face Tass and Unilag Gorilla. I'm calling you guys out if they're listening to this.
So obviously, I recorded. I've been looking at leaderboards as well via FUTWiz. So shout out to them. Obviously doing some really good stuff on the leaderboards. Obviously, this could all change. Obviously, as we know, the day that we recorded, the EA came out and said that, you know, the rewards will be delayed. They're looking into supposed issues that some players may have played in different accounts or shouldn't have been in the positions they asked. But we'll go from what we're looking at now: 31, 40, and O's. And 95% of all those players in there are recognisable faces, I'd say. And what I'm looking at as well, the main man from PSG is in there, AA Megasip, over on the PlayStation
the hero,
side.
The hero, AA Megasip. The return is on. If there's one player that I'm going to be biased, I'm just going to say it. If there's one player that I want to qualify, it is AA Megasip, just because he just mixes it up. The Qatari legend.
So, Chu, if you've had a chance to look at the leaderboards, out of the 40-0 guys, you know, you've got Ryan in there and Harry from Hashtags, Zelonius is in there. You've even got Marcus is in there as well. Who's taking your fancy?
I mean, on the PlayStation side, I guess my boy T-Mox, you know?
Yeah.
I'm always a big fan of T-Mox. Nicest guy. Actually, the Wolfsburg guys are always nice, except for Dave, by the way. Nobody likes that guy. No, I think T-Mox is, you know, he went so far so many times last year, and I think hopefully this year, you know, this is the year that, you know, he goes all the way. I don't think it could happen to a greater guy in the FIFA community. So I'm looking at him, and also the guy Honey Badgers. I mean, to do that in Rest of World with I mean, you know, the lag some of them face, that's pretty incredible, you know. So I would say those two.
Which you can link in as well. As I'm just looking here, I think you've got you've got Honey Badger, obviously from Rest of the World. You got Melbourne Marcos, Rest of the World, AA Megazip, Rest of the World, and then there's MS Tasari in there as well. So there's 4 players from the Rest of the World doing a job there. And obviously you got some America's guys down there as well, linking in with the 39s. There was 65, 39 to 1. One of those guys that did get that was the man himself, Roma Zimmy there. Colin, talk to me about his weekend. You said he was very impressed, and you know, why wouldn't he be? He's really kicked off qualifying month with the way he wanted to.
Yeah, it was. I think his just composure is what impressed me the most. You know, he's a guy that is as comfortable at 0-0 and as he is with being down 0-3. It just never seems like he's panicked or worried. And his celebrations are kind of muted in some ways. Like he could equalize in the 88th minute and would be like just locked straight back in almost. Maybe you'll get a little fist pump, but that's about it. And like I said before, like he was just finishing everything, it felt like, and most of his games he was, winning by 3 or 4, getting a lot of rage quits. And the close games he did have, he seemed to pull them out in the end. And the only game he did lose, I think it was like a late on goal in a 2-2 match that he lost 3-2. So he's definitely stepped it up, and I think he's upset about him not qualifying for Barcelona, and has something to prove now. So it's good to see that he's motivated.
And one thing that I'm just looking at right now on the leaderboard is on the PlayStation, if you're not getting 38 wins and a good skill rating, you're actually not making it even into the top 100, never mind the top 64. Do we think, us three right here, and be sure to get involved on Twitter at the FUT Champs Pod, do we think there is a potential skill gap between the Xbox and the PlayStation 4? Because I know a lot of people switch over, like they'll be playing on the PlayStation 4, and then some people just, if you can hit a 38 and not get into the top 100, that's got to be hugely demotivating. Are we going to see more people switch over to the Xbox? I know a lot of people, Megabit for example, plays on both consoles. Do we think one console slightly better, could you say, the quality?
I don't think so.
Yeah, you go ahead, Colin.
I was just going to say, like, the amount of investment that would need to go into a second account would be incredible, especially at this stage of the game. I mean, at this point, everyone on Xbox has, a pretty much a fully stacked team. So it would be pretty difficult for a pro, especially a pro that doesn't have an organization, to switch consoles. And I guess if they did, it would cost a couple $1,000s, in my opinion, at least, to get even close to what the current pros have. So I think it's a risk to take, especially this. If you're going to do it, I would have done it like 3 or 4 months ago and not right now, like in the middle of a qualifying month. But I think in the future, pros might think about it. I mean, you've seen players switch over and, from 17 to 18. I think you'll see a little bit more crossover, but I think it's a bit late on in this edition to see any like mid-season crossover.
Go on, Chu.
I mean, I'm trying to figure out if there's, because I always look at this and it's like, yeah, the PS4 leaderboards are always, they seem higher up, I mean, is that because they have a pool of players? Since the player base of PlayStation is bigger, do they have a bigger pool of scrubs to play against versus versus Xbox has a smaller pool, so the chances that somebody's good on Xbox are actually higher than the chance of somebody good on PlayStation. I think that's something like people always and I'm still a firm believer in that. I know I got flack for this on the Barcelona stream, but it's like in FUT Champs and NA sometimes it's actually harder because the 100%. Pool, the pool of people who play FIFA to that level, who are capable of qualifying for FUT Champs, in an area, in a region where football is not the most popular sport. That means the people playing FUT Champs are really into FUT Champs. So the chances of you matching up with somebody in FUT Champs, the chances are that player is good. Versus in Europe, everybody's trying to play FUT Champs. And they could be good, they could be bad, but if it's a casual player in North America is rarely gonna even come near FUT Champs. So I remember I said this on the stream, but FUT with Dan came to play FUT Champs. I know I'm exposing him, but he was playing FUT Champs in my place when he was in Vancouver, and he was just like, "Yeah, what the hell? Everybody's like really good." And I was like, "Yeah, dude, just because like you're gonna be playing like really good players because there's not that many people playing FUT Champs, and all the NA pros say they match up with each other all the time."
Yeah, and I think like moving from the US to the UK, I've actually been like shocked by how bad people are on this continent. Like these people are horrible. They're so bad.
Oh, this podcast gonna get so many dislikes.
Yeah,
oh, God.
I'm just saying, like playing seasons and playing champs here compared to playing it back in America. Like people were so good back in America, and then I guess the thing is like if I play someone really good here, they're insanely good. Whereas like just back there, it just felt like a grind out where like everyone, especially once you get into gold tier, like everyone is just really good. So yeah, I think what Chu said is really accurate though about the pool of players that are bad is just much larger here because everyone plays FIFA here. Whereas if you play FIFA in North America, like you play a lot of FIFA. So.
And you said there, someone who gets into gold is like very good. sprung the idea of matchmaking. Do we think there's been any different change in matchmaking? Because I know I played FUT Champs this weekend, and when I think I was 8-3 at one point, I was coming up against some like pretty decent opponents. Do any of the Roma guys, have they spoke about it? Do they think there's been any changes? And then Chu, if you've spoke to any of the pros, do they think that there's been any changes as well? Colin?
I think it's funny because some, for example, like Zima played 2 pros and beat both of them and didn't realize they were pros until afterwards. And then with Nicolo, for example, played like 2 or 3 pros that were all qualified for Barcelona. So it's just it's interesting. I think we're just noticing it more now because we're talking about it and because the discussion is out there. So every time after you play an opponent, you're like, oh, was this guy a pro because of matchmaking, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas like if this patch wouldn't have come out, I don't think people would be as aware, even if they did play pros, because I think Nicolo played Emre actually, who beat Poacher in Barcelona and then lost to him as well. So it's just, I'm not sure, to be honest. I think we need more weeks of FUT Champs matchmaking to really tell what the effect is, because just one weekend of 40 games I think is a bit early to like judge if the matchmaking has truly like been completely overhauled or not.
I agree. I think one weekend might be too hasty to figure out. They're probably right, but let's see the other weekends. But it seems like people are saying more pros are coming up against other pros. But is that bad? I don't know. Like, are people mad because it's like they don't want to face another pro? But shouldn't they be facing other pros if they're as good as each other?
I think with the pool of players, you'd say at least, depending on obviously if you're doing exceptionally well, you should be coming up against at least one pro minimum, obviously in that 40 games, which a number of guys already are. What do you think as well, Chu, on obviously the stadiums coming? Obviously we always play at the FEWC now at night, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong or right there. Obviously in your own kit as well, home and away. Would you like to see maybe the gamer tag being hidden after that, or do you think we're already there for the steps if we're going into a game?
I mean, I wonder how it would be if it's like you only see the gamer tag at the end of the match, and then you're like, oh shit, I just beat Gorilla, suck it, Gorilla. That would be kind of cool. So maybe that, like, yeah, it's hidden until like you hit the pause screen. I mean, not the pause screen, the match end screen. That would be nice. The kids thing, I'm weird about, because I think it's a step in the right direction. I wonder, like, I was watching a lot of gameplay, and I'm just like, wouldn't it get like, I don't know, like, wouldn't you lose focus if you just saw the same kit? Like,
I like seeing my opponent's kit. It's like, I felt as though, like, it added a bit of like diversity to the game. Like,
yeah.
There'll be a time when a lot of the pros will come together and be like, look, we're all going to use the Newport County badge, and like because like there has to be ways like
it takes
around
care
it.
Of that,
yeah.
Okay, no, yeah. I mean, I think they're right for doing it. I just wonder if it gets like fatigued to see like the same opponent kid. Like, I got kind of bored like watching. I was like, oh, it looks like you're playing the same team all the time. But I think the FEWC stadium, I think that's the best thing. Just having a general stadium. I watch a lot of Madden esports, and they always have had like the one stadium that they do all their esports stuff in. So I think that is definitely a step in the right direction.
One more point we could talk about as we come to the end of the podcast here. Chu and obviously Colin obviously from America. Chu, NA, a big NA North America FIFA fan. The EMLS has come into the equation. Obviously fantastic for the America scene. What's your thoughts on that? What's your thoughts on it?
I'm happy. I'm excited. I was hoping that it could be like a full on like league. Where it's like the E-League. I hope we can get to that point. And I really do see that as like the next step. But EMLS, it's good because I was telling some of the other I've been talking to clubs here and there. I was like, yeah, this is like the kids in North America, all the guys that rank high in FUT Champions. They've been waiting for something to take seriously. They don't have that thing to work towards like a lot of the guys in Europe do, and you tend to work harder once you see the goal in sight. So a lot of these guys are, being able to hopefully represent, their home team. I think what the scene is going with right now with the EMLS is like a lot of the MLS teams are just kind of going local, which might not be. What's up?
I did see that with was it Pugzilla signing for one of his EMLS teams as well.
Exactly. So what a lot of people are saying, I mean, I don't know if that's the best way to go. I think right now they just all see it as a media play versus an actual esports thing where, all right, everybody's talking about esports. We're showing the world that, hey, look, we know esports. We're doing esports. Hey, a local TV channel, come talk about us, and then that's it. You see, I mean, teams like NYCFC kind of lucked out because Chris was just from New York, and I mean, I don't know if they knew that he was like the best NA player, but lo and behold, he was. But I don't think you're gonna see the same with a lot of the other teams. I think maybe like 3 or 4 will have like some of the best guys.
I think Gustella's a great pickup for LA Galaxy.
Exactly, someone who's as experienced as him. It just kind of works out. I think EMLS I think once EMLS hits, I think the good players will stand out, and then I think a lot of the clubs will see, okay, yeah, it does pay to have the better player because you might see the NYC Chris's of the world, or the NYC Chris's of the world just like rise to the top, and then that's what gets the actual media attention. So I think after EMLS, I think you'll see a change in who they select and their selection criteria. But either way, EMLS is a great thing because we finally have something in North America to work towards.
The North Americans needed it as well because with the way that EA changed qualification this year, with there not being any regionality, there's no real reason for European clubs or organizations to pick up North Americans anymore, really, unless it's like an exposure play for the region, because there's no, unless it's a player that's going to qualify top 64 every single time, there's no real reason to pick up a player that she's just going to dominate North America, So seeing that now these NA pros have places to go is really nice to see. And now I'm finally going to have a hometown team to root for outside of my own organization with Sporting Kansas City, hopefully getting into it as well.
Colin, do you think as well that outside of the the global series, as we know that's part of the qualification process, do you think these leagues are good as well for extra training and practice for the pros?
Anything where a player gets to play another player in a competitive format is good, because as I've said multiple times, like FUT Champions isn't the best way to prep for events and to prep for LANs and to prep for playing pros. So any chance that these guys get, whether it's a league, whether it's something like Gfinity, whether it's anything like that, I think it's really good to have any outlet, to kind of play the other best players in the world. And EMLS is just another chance for the guys to do that.
I just think you can see it in general with FIFA esports, like the MLS, the A League, like we're taking the right steps to just make it even like bigger and better, really. Fingers crossed the Premier League gets involved very soon. I know there's been a lot of talks behind the scenes, and hopefully that's something that can come to fruition shortly. But for right now, I think everything's going the right way.
Chu, all I'm going to say to you is 5 years' time, ESports Champions League. Can you see it?
Oh, I think sooner.
Sooner, yeah?
I'll say sooner.
And what a way that'll be for the esports scene. Do you think the Liga or Premier League first? Like full La Liga or full Premier League?
I mean, hopefully Premier League get that hype. That's the hype league. I don't care what anyone says. That's the best league in the world. Because it's the most hype league in the world. I think, yeah, we need the Premier League first before La Liga. Just in terms of growing the scene, I think once you get the biggest clubs in the world to get on it, not just Real Madrid and Barcelona, but on the other hand, Chelsea, Arsenal, Man United, Man City, more big clubs. I think that'll be way more beneficial.
Well, there you have it. There's ChuBoi, Twitch streamer and FIFA commentator and host. Does live events. Big thank you, Chu, for coming on, mate. and all the best with the Top Lunge TV, and fingers crossed we'll be working together very soon at a future event. Colin, anything else you want to add? You know, how was your boys feeling about going into this weekend?
Motivated as ever, you know. I mean, when you get solely focused on one thing like this, I mean, it kind of, you know, consumes your weekends. Obviously, the guys coming down here, so just looking forward to another very tense room with some very tense guys that are trying to qualify for a tournament with a lot of money.
Richard, will I be speaking to you on Monday morning with you completing those 40 games, or?
Potentially so, Brandon. Potentially so. Maybe I'll just turn up this weekend and get the 40-0. I've been waiting for all this time.
I'll be left alone on the commentary side.
Because you never know, like with someone like, if I can maybe get a team at Ramos, that 96 short passing could push me over the edge. You never know, Brandon.
You never know, indeed. Well, that's wrapped up week 10 of the FUT Champs podcast. A massive thank you for your support so far as we push into 2018 into February. Week 11 next week. Make sure you do drop us a like if you're watching on YouTube. Subscribe as well if you listen over on our audio stations over there. Make sure you go and follow ChuBoi, Colin, myself and Richard. And if you want to get involved in the show, hashtag FUT Champs Podcast. Enjoy your weekend league. Hope it goes well. All the best for this February qualifying month. And we'll catch you next week.
If you like what you're hearing, why not subscribe? Just go to @FUT Champions Pod on Twitter, drop a follow, and then you'll find all your subscription options in the pinned tweet. Oh, and also, while I've got you, why not check out this podcast's more casual older brother, the FUT Weekly Podcast, for in-depth reviews, Team of the Week rundown, content chat, and general FUT discussion.
Bye-bye.